It is 6 a.m. in Washington. It's 11 a.m. in London. I'm Monita Rajpal. This is World One, live from Hong Kong. First, students in Newtown, Connecticut will try to resume their daily lives today amid what must seem like unending grief. Schools will soon reopen 4 days after a gunman shot dead 20 children and 6 adults, although Sandy Hook Elementary, where the massacre happened, is staying closed. Families of some of the victims have said the final goodbyes to their loved ones. 2 6-year-old boys were laid to rest yesterday, and the funerals of 2 girls who died are expected in the coming hours. Eric is in Newtown. She joins us now live. And Deborah, is there any more information that investigators are gaining or getting from this computer?
You know, there's not as of yet, but they're pinning all their hopes that they will be able to retrieve the data.
And as we've been reporting, survivors from Sandy Hook Elementary won't return to their school today. It is still a crime scene. When they do go back to class, it'll be a very different school. Kate Baldwin brings us that story.
Truckloads filled with everything from desks to bulletin boards leaving Sandy Hook Elementary.
You're watching World One live from Hong Kong. Britain's Queen Elizabeth has made history today. She's the country's first monarch in more than 100 years to sit in on a cabinet meeting. Her visit was part of the celebrations that have been held all year to mark 60 years on the throne. The Queen arrived at Downing Street around an hour ago to be greeted by the Prime Minister, David Cameron. CNN's senior international correspondent Dan Rivers was there. He joins us now live. Quite a momentous occasion for Downing Street.
Yes, it's sort of surprising in a way that the Queen hasn't attended cabinet before.
Well, no pomp and circumstance in South Korea as the nation prepares to go to the polls this Wednesday to elect a new president. Right now, opinion polls show that for voters, it all comes down to the economy. But as Paula Hancock reports, candidates' personal histories may be the deciding factor.
The daughter of a brutal dictator or the child of South Korea's economic savior. How Koreans...
CNN Seoul. This is World One, live from Hong Kong. Welcome back. South African President Jacob Zuma has been re-elected as leader of his party, the African National Congress, but his win comes as the ANC faces a lot of criticism, including from its own members. CNN's Robin Kerner joins us now live from Johannesburg. And Robin, this doesn't come as a surprise, even though there has been a lot of criticism from within.
Absolutely. I mean, we knew Jacob Zuma going into this conference had this result pretty much sewn up.
Another big issue on the table for the ANC, it's education. The ANC admits its record on education has been one of its biggest failures, with high school children performing worse in tests than students in poorer countries. And Kapila Mabuse has more on that.
Free education for the poor has improved access to schools in South Africa.
You're watching World One live from Hong Kong. When one of the largest sporting goods chains in the world has removed all guns from its store nearest to Newtown. Dick's Sporting Goods has also suspended the sale of modern sporting rifles, a semi-automatic gun, in all of its U.S. stores. In a separate development, the private equity firm that owns the maker of the weapon used in the massacre plans to sell the company. All of this comes as the largest number of Americans in a decade support tougher gun laws. That's according to a new CBS poll. But there are those who don't. And CNN's Casey Wyan has been finding out why.
Columbine, Virginia Tech, Tucson, a movie theater in Colorado, a Sikh temple in Wisconsin, an Oregon shopping mall. Even with those mass shootings, it has become easier for most Americans to carry a gun.
Let's dig deeper on this issue. We want to speak to Laura Salisbury. She's a consultant solicitor at Lewis Nedas, a law firm in London, and the co-author of the British Firearms Law Handbook. Ms. Salisbury, thank you very much for being with us. As we heard there, gun culture is deeply ingrained in American society. The interesting thing is they always bring up the Second Amendment, the right to bear arms in the Constitution. Interestingly enough, though, the right to bear arms has also been, in history, part of the British Constitution as well, but yet after massacres, whether it was Dunblane in 1996 or other parts of the country, there has been a sea change in the way the British look at how their right to bear arms is as being part of their culture. Why do you think it was easier for the British to move on this than it is for the Americans.
Good morning, and could I firstly just begin by expressing my sympathies to the friends and families of
Right, Laura, we'll leave it there. Thank you very much for that. Laura Salisbury, their co-author of the British Firearms Law Handbook. We appreciate your time. The U.S. television network NBC says a team of its journalists kidnapped last week in Syria have just been freed. To bring us the very latest developments is CNN's Nick Payton-Walsh, who joins us now live from neighboring Beirut. Nick, what more do we know?
Well, there's a lot of information about this floating around out there on the internet. What we do know for sure is what NBC is saying.
Thank you for that, Nick Payton-Walsh there in Beirut. And we'll be right back here on World One. Whenever an athlete goes back to play against his former team, it always adds to interest and drama to a sporting contest, and that's what happened on the basketball court on Monday night. Alex Thomas is here to tell us more about that. Alex?
Yeah, hi, Monita. For a while last season, it was the buzzword in the NBA, but even though Lynn's sanity has calmed down, Monita, back to you.
All right, Alex, thank you very much for that. You are watching World One live from Hong Kong. Welcome back. This is World One live from Hong Kong. Out with a bang. NASA has crashed its 2 lunar mapping satellites into a mountain on the moon. The U.S. Space Agency says it deliberately ditched its twin probes, known as Ebb and Flow, because they were running out of fuel. At the CNN World Weather Center and has more on this lunar crash landing. Ebb and Flow, as they're called, Mari.
Isn't that a great name? Just the names that they come up with there at NASA are really amazing. And, you know, one of the reasons that they're having this named after Sally Ride is because she was instrumental in actually... Monita, back to you.
All right. Mari, thank you very much for that. Well, for people in Newtown, Connecticut, life will never be the same again. It's a community that has been brought together by grief after a gunman walked into a primary school and shot 20 children dead. Well, one charity that wants to help the healing is enlisting a team of specially trained 4-legged friends. Gary Tuckman has their story.
9 golden retrievers on the march, making their way into a recreation center in Newtown. The continuing sadness here, there were a lot of smiles.
Very sweet. Gary Tuckman reporting there. You are watching World One live from Hong Kong. I'm Monita Rajpal. Stay with us. We'll update you with the news headlines in just a couple of minutes right here on CNN.